Today on Passion for Food, with 4th of July just around the corner, I wanted to put out a special episode and show you how to make this beautiful barbecue smoked chicken. Let's jump right in here and get started. First things first, let's put together this barbecue spice rub. To get started here, I'm going to grind up some dried Mexican guajillo chilies. You can, of course, use commercial pre-prepared dried chili powders, nothing wrong with that. But I really love the vibrant color and fresh taste I get from these chilies. And just a note, this is a fairly multi-purpose barbecue spice rub. I put this on all kinds of things. To our chili powder, we're going to add a couple of teaspoons of ground cumin, about 1 tablespoon of onion powder, about a tablespoon of garlic powder, and ground cayenne pepper to taste. It just depends how spicy you want things. I would say I went with about a teaspoon here. You can tell I measure all this stuff super carefully. So now we go in with about 1/3 a cup of paprika. You can use smoked paprika if you have it, but this is going to get smoked on the grill anyway. And our secret ingredient here, about a dash of cinnamon. Don't add too much, but this adds a great flavor in the background. People will think, that's really good. I don't know what it is, but I love it. And of course, let's not forget the pepper, about 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper. You could certainly grind it fresh, but with all the spices in here, I really don't think it's necessary. And finally, about 2 tablespoons of salt. Again, I'm going to measure this super carefully. A lot of people put sugar into their spice rubs, but I feel like that tends to burn, and I'm going to put sauce on this later anyway, so I don't add any sugar to mine. So we'll just get that mixed together with our fingers, and that's it for our spice rub. You can, of course, buy commercial spice rubs, but I've yet to find one I really like, and this really doesn't take any time at all to put together. Just to make things a little easier on myself, I'm going to be using a plastic bag here to get the spice onto my chicken. So just put the chicken in the bag, put the spice in the bag, seal it up, and just give it a shake. I'm going to be using 9 chicken legs here today, but this works just as well with thighs. However, I wouldn't really recommend this method for the white meat. Chicken breasts have a tendency to dry out even if they're the skin-on kind. So for today, this recipe is more focused on the dark meat. Once we're all seasoned up here, we do want to let this sit for at least an hour for those flavors to have a chance to penetrate into the chicken a little bit. So what I usually do is get mine spiced up, and then I'm going to pop it into the fridge while I start my grill. So because we're smoking the chicken, we're going to prepare our grill for an indirect cooking method session. On a charcoal grill like mine, that involves banking up the coals on either side. On a propane grill, it usually involves having one burner on and one burner off, but I'm sure you know how your grill works. On with the grate, and it's time to get this thing smoking. So in we go with some soaked hickory wood chips. Soaking these just helps them to smoke and not simply burn on us. You could use a different type of wood of your choice, but I really feel like hickory reigns supreme here. So with our grill good to go here, it's time to get the chicken on and get smoking. As you're laying in your chicken, just be mindful of those banked coals. You don't want any of the chicken directly above the coals. It will burn. And you want to try and leave at least a small gap to allow room for that smoke to penetrate in between the pieces. One final thing I'm going to do here is sneak in one of these probe thermometers so I can have a look at the temperature in the grill. And with that, it's time to go on with our lid, and we're going to let this smoke for about 20 minutes or until it's pretty much stops smoking. And just to give you some idea, temperature-wise, we're aiming for somewhere between 280 and 350, so we're just perfect here around 316. And here we are after about 20 minutes. The smoke had died down and the heat was dipping a little bit. As a result of that, I decided to lay in some fresh briquettes in addition to the wood chips I was already planning to add. That's just often the nature of the beast when you're working with real fire. It's a little unpredictable. You have to pay attention and just adjust as necessary. So on top of those, I go in with some additional wood chips. And once we have all that in there and it starts smoking away nicely for us, it's time to close all this up and let it smoke for another 15 minutes or so. So here we are after another 20 minutes and the color is developing nicely, and it's time to sauce these up. You don't absolutely have to sauce these. I know a lot of people just like it with the dry rub. But personally, I really like the flavor and the texture it gets after it cooks for a final 20 minutes with this sauce on the chicken. So I'm just going to generously baste on the sauce on one side. We're going to give them a flip and baste the other side as well. I remember back in the day when Emeril Lagasse used to say he hated one side tasting food, and I agree. So let's get that thoroughly basted on both sides. And you can use whatever your favorite barbecue sauce is, although I find most of the commercial sauces are more high fructose corn syrup than really anything else. So check out the video in the top right corner here and I'll show you how I make my sauce. Anyway, let's finish getting these basted up and it's time for the final 20 minutes of cooking. So that's about a total of an hour cooking at about 300 degrees. You can go slightly longer if you want. Some people like their dark meat a little more well done, and it is very forgiving. So here we are after about 25 minutes, and I really love the beautiful color these have developed. Let's get one up close here so you can have a look at that too. And that is just some beautiful barbecue smoked chicken. Fun fact, the difference between grilling and barbecuing is that barbecue involves smoke. So if there's no smoke, technically there's no barbecue. So we can legitimately call this barbecue smoked chicken. So let's go ahead and get this plated up. I decided to pair mine with a loaded baked potato, and you can see just the gorgeous color we got on these. Waiting till near the end to put on the barbecue sauce definitely changes the overall texture of that final crust, and I really loved how these came out, so I hope you give it a try soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have, please give me a thumbs up below and consider subscribing and hitting that little bell to get notified of our weekly episodes. This has been Graham with Passion for Food.